morning. All we do apologize, Sarah and Chris. No Audis, no Porsches, no BMWs there. So we'll find them next time.
There's lots of videos. If you want that video, let me know. I cut it down for time. Go ahead, Chris.
Four-door Lamborghini had the same engine that was in our Audi race car.
Really?
Yeah, the 5.2 liter V10. That's what we race with.
Oh, rock and roll.
Yeah, it's okay. And the McLaren has a Mercedes engine in it, but nothing there at a Porsche engine. So,
so quick word from our sponsors.
Hi, this is Gail Rubenstein, the founder and CEO of Retail Resilient. Car dealers all over the country love working with us, and let me tell you why. We have two product solutions that they absolutely love using. The first product solution is a Facebook and Instagram school where we build out a curriculum for salespeople and managers. We teach them how to create new car offers, used car offers, and get pre-approved offers. We also have a campaign management program where we generate leads for them, and then they do what they do best, they sell cars. So we train their sales staff on how to handle social media leads. Our car dealers typically say to us, I had the highest grossing month in the history of my business. I'm up double in my volume year over year. We even had a client the other day that told me that he was absolutely blessed because he loved our customer service. Everyone at Retail Resilient works remotely from home. I hire only car people from all over the country, so I hire all A players. They're really good at what they do, and we absolutely love helping car dealers. So give us a try, give us a shout. You know, any opportunity, we would love to see if we're a fit to work with you.
Thanks, Gail. A few book recommendations. It's a little hard to choose a few books for cars, but there are a few that I chose. So Jackie Stewart, Richard Porter, Car Crazy, Driving Honda, and Insane Mode. A few car movies, there's again many, but these are just a few that I thought made sense. Word from Barry.
Hi, this is Barry Jordan from WhiteGlovePerformanceGroup.com. I'd like to take a few moments of your time to share how we can make you more profitable. Dealerships all over North America are using our cloud-based power dialing platform, Touchpoint, to manage their outbound sales-generating phone calls. With Touchpoint, your agents can make up to 50 calls an hour. Leave a voicemail, send an email with a link to a video or to your website, all with a click of the mouse. We specialize in empowering your teams to make the calls that make the sales. How can Touchpoint help you increase profit? Check us out, WhiteGlovePerformanceGroup.com. That's WhiteGlovePerformanceGroup.com.
Thanks, Bert. And Jeff, disclaimer time.
good morning, all. So we always have a disclaimer here because, frankly, it's called covering our butts. But the opinions shared here today are those of our guests, not necessarily Ian or myself or the Auto Hub show. So don't get upset. But hey, we always get good people, so they're never that controversial. So how can you get upset at a lady that recycles Porsches, a guy that's got a really cool car dealership, and a guy that races cars and builds cool cars? Not totally personally, but with people. So there we go.
In a busy dealership environment, finding time, ways, and means to maximize sales potential can seem overwhelming. And that's where we come in with the Performance Management Partnership, a unique and proven solution to help you increase sales and market share. The program includes needs-specific skills training, coaching, mentoring, and counseling. By focusing on critical factors, behavior goals, outcome goals, and performance-specific analytics, we help you build an effective, high-performance sales culture. As your team increases sales by an average of just 1 or 2 deals per month per sales rep, the math will speak for itself. For example, 2 additional sales times 6 sales reps over 12 months equals 144 additional sales per year. Multiply that by an average front and back-end gross of $3,000, and you just made an extra $432,000. We've helped dealerships achieve closing ratios as high as 51.9% and volume increases as high as 43.7%. And we do this with the program's ongoing support, weekly phone conferences, monthly on-site meetings, and precise feedback targeting specific needs. Call us to learn more.
Thanks, John. And go ahead, Jeff.
Well, welcome to the Car Nutz show, and we love our spelling there. We're quite looking forward to this show. Of course, we opened with our one of the most famous car nuts in the world, Jay Leno, on that video with on the old Top Gear show. And my favorite thing in that video, by the way, was not just Jay's story, which was very entertaining, but was the table with that 12-cylinder engine block sitting there. I want one of those, but I'd be scared to see how much it was. Maybe Sarah's got an old flat 6 block lying around that I can put a glass thing on top. But thank you, welcome everybody, and I'm going to introduce our guest to our show today. First of all, we have a person who is keeping the legacy of Porsche alive, Sarah DeCarmen, who's the founder and owner of LA Dismantler for Porsche parts and a whole lot more in Sun Valley, California. Sarah, can you take a moment and introduce yourself?
Hi, everybody. I just want to say thank you so much for having me and being here with these other amazing guests. So coming to you from Los Angeles, it's Porsche Mecca here is kind of what I want to call it. It's funny. My kids, I just took them out for just a rundown, through the city yesterday, and they were counting Porsches on the way, and they lost count by the time we were halfway down the freeway. So lucky and blessed to be here. Keeping the Porsches on the road is what we like to say.
I have to say, when I look at your backdrop and I've seen stuff on your website, I don't know whether to celebrate or cry, because you see 911s all squished up there, and that old I get lost in all the codes of the Porsches, but that one up to I imagine it's above your left shoulder. I'm sitting there going, that's got to be like in the 90s, and it's all squished up. So it's great. Thank you so much for joining us. Secondly, we have Chris McNaughton, who's the general manager of Carbon Auto Works, another very cool profession. They build really funky cars, and told me about your 19,000 horsepower M2 BMW there, and they race cars too. So Chris, take a moment. Thanks for joining us again, and take a moment to introduce yourself, please.
Yeah, I'm Chris McNaughton. We're Steve Dinan's Carbon Auto Works. So Steve Dinan used to own Dinan Engineering. We're his new current company. We supply high-performance parts mostly for BMWs, and we are in about 60 BMW dealerships. So we're one of the only high-performance companies where you can have your car modified that's still under warranty, and we will match the new car warranty year for year, mile for mile. And then we also race Audi R8s in IMSA, which is NASCAR's road racing division. So.
Terrific. The question I need to know is, are you getting heat from BMW dealers for racing a Audi instead of like an 8 Series?
No, honestly, the guys who fund the whole thing, who's got more money than they know what to do with, they get to decide what car we race. So the guys who finance it, they like the R8s. So.
That's okay. You know what? What the heck? It's fun, and that's what matters. Yeah. And last but not least, we have Danny Zaslavsky, who's a dealer principal and GM of Country Hill Motors in Kansas City, Missouri, actually Mission City, Kansas, which has got to be close. And I know it's not your slogan, but you're selling cars like candy bars. Danny, just say a moment and introduce yourself, please.
Yeah, nice to meet everybody, and thanks for having me. This is fun. Kansas City. We're in Mission, Merriam, Overland Park, kind of all the same area, but been around for 37 years now. We're strictly pre-owned. We get to have a lot of fun. This weekend alone, we sold a Shelby Cobra Mustang, we sold a Maserati, we sold a Plymouth Prowler, and we sold like Hondas and Toyotas. Just to give you an idea of the variety of vehicles that we sell. And Sarah, I'm excited to get to know you because I love Porsches. So we try to have a lot of fun.
Rock and roll.
And I was born in your city.
That's awesome.
Parents are from Kansas. Yeah, that's funny. You don't hear too many people from there.
Yeah, it's what we like to call sneaky cool.
Good morning. So I have a quick question. I guess I'll start with Danny. What do Car Nutz mean to you?
So I have twin 7-year-old boys, and they are Car Nutz. And I didn't I didn't teach them to be car nuts. They just gravitated towards it. And so when I think about, is are car nuts a dying breed, or is it going to continue to live on? I genuinely believe it's going to live on. Something that I remember telling customers that I believed early on, when parents would come and buy their kids' first cars, or kids would save up their own money to buy their first car, I remember not just thinking, but believing if you bought something that they liked, they would take care of it, versus if you just put them in something that they didn't like, they wouldn't take care of it. And that is true even today. So my 7-year-old kids can point at any vehicle on the road, tell me more about it, quite frankly, than I even know about it. My son this morning was telling me about the new electric Porsche that is coming out, and because he's following them on YouTube. And so I think that, the idea of engineering is evolving and changing, but the enthusiasm behind it is very strong and alive.
Fantastic. Chris?
Yeah. I mean, we the car nuts that we deal with, very enthusiasts, right? We have guys that will build a car to have the most power that's out there. We have guys that build cars to go on the track, and then we have guys that their dream as a kid was just to own a BMW one day. So the car nuts is to us is I think anybody that's to be a car nuts is that an enthusiast, right? Is your all your free time and all your free extra money is going to that car, whatever you own. It's kind of makes you a car nut.
Fantastic. And Sarah, what do you think? I mean, obviously, how did you become a Porsche nut? I guess would be the first thing, but maybe what's your thoughts?
I think I want to echo some of the things that they were saying. I mean, we definitely see a wide variety of people. So I think a car nut can be as simple as a small nut where you've got just maybe a love for a specific car or brand or make or whatever, versus all the way to the extent of your life is really kind of driven by a car. I want to say a montage almost. So it's a wide spectrum of people, and I think they're all car nuts in their own way, and anywhere from having a car that they've bought, and I don't really love the concept of a garage queen, but some people, that's their thing, is that they almost idolize something that they don't utilize. I like people more that get out and really utilize their car and really kind of identify with it and get it on the road and feel it and love it and dream it. But there's other, there's a wide spectrum of people. How I got into it, I was the car washer of the family, and my father got a Porsche when I was 10. Let's say when he was 10. He was a car nut for a long time, and I was quite happy because he got his first Porsche when I was 10, and I didn't have to reach into these slatted windows to wash the back of the back glass. So I was so excited over it. And he got a 924, which is not necessarily known in the Porsche world as the highest end of Porsches, but in my little suburban town, that was a Porsche. Like nobody else really had one. So then I met my late husband when I was 20, and he was a Porsche, not even just an enthusiast, he was an aficionado, very obsessed with them. And so my love has just grown since beyond then.
Fantastic.
Well, it's very funny you talk about that, because there's so many things happening in this world, and Danny, when you mention your kids, and we're kind of finding that the world is changing, and it's in many places kids seem to be growing up with a different view of cars, and in our video we mentioned that car that, I don't know if it was from Abu Dhabi or whatever, that they said, hey, 0 to 60 in 1.8 seconds. That's really great. And then, of course, our friend Mr. Musk comes out with a car, and he names it after Spaceballs, and it'll do 1.8 seconds without being 5,000 horsepower. So with the advent of electric cars, electronics are starting to dominate new cars. What do you feel the world of gearheads being threatened? So Sarah, we'll go right back to you.
Well, I think there's definitely obviously a trend. We all have to jump on the concept that it's here and it's coming and it's not changing. I mean, our governments are demanding it. And I understand the reasoning behind it. I mean, there's lots of reasons why we'd want to change to a more eco-friendly way of being. Although I do find it ironic that the more eco-friendly way also has its own kind of trash component. In order to get the batteries, in order to dispose of them, there's many problems, which I won't get into politicalness of that, but it's almost like we're moving from one beast to another in a sense. So, and then when you talk about kids, so I have 4 girls, and um, and I've watched, within their friendships. So I have 9-year-old all the way up to teenagers, and my girls were my oldest was dying to get her driver's license like I was when I was young. But then a lot of her friends are just, they have no interest in driving. They'd rather be Ubered around or whatever or parents driving them, whatever their mode of transportation, whether it's a friend. And so I do think that it is up to us to try to continue to instill the love of cars so that it doesn't get lost. I mean, there's going to be a heritage of, I'm going to call it the vintage market, the pre-electric market, that is going to continue on, just like our love for all of the vintage cars that we consider. And it's just like songs, it kind of moves along in that same direction. Well, when records were gone and then cassettes were gone and then it became virgin, people, how could you do away with, and we did, we adjusted. So they say like something like a streaming service, you might get a little less quality, but you get access. So it's just going to shift, and we're going to flow along with it and see where that takes us. But just like with vintage LPs, they've made a comeback, and I don't think vintage cars are ever going to go away.
We certainly hope so. First of all, I have 2 other questions. How many wrecked Taycans do you have?
I have not purchased any. It's funny. There was one almost immediately upon the market. It came to auction, and everyone's, "Are you getting? It's I don't plan on venturing into electric anytime soon. I mean, I do have a 2020 992, and I got it in 2020, and it's only got 400 miles on it. The problem with my market is I kind of have to wait for them to age out quite a bit. For the need to be there to get the parts for that car. So that 2020 is still somewhat sitting, waiting for its new participant."
Actually, I could see it being a little scary dismantling a car made up of electronics and computers. So for darn sure. Chris, you're next on my screen there. So what do you feel's going to happen with the world of gearheads?
Well, I think it's going to evolve just like it has now. We went from big displacement V8 engines to small displacement turbocharged engines to now hybrid engines and fully electric cars, right? So it wasn't more than 10 years ago, BMW had a big high revving V8 in the M3, and at the same time, Mercedes had their 6.3 liter V8 in the E63s, and now now they've gone to little tiny 3 liter turbo engines, and one has a hybrid electric engine. So it's evolved, right? And I think that it's gonna, electric cars will obviously become the majority here in the future, as as Sarah was saying, because of government focus. But I think that there's still going to be a need for guys that want more. So even though Elon Musk has a car that's 0 to 60 in under 2 seconds, how does it handle? Can we improve on suspension, and can we improve on braking, and can we make the wheels lighter and tires grippier, right? And how many G forces can we make this car pull laterally, right? So we still think that there's going to be a need to modify the electric cars in the spot that is not just in a straight line acceleration. Can we keep the batteries and the electric motors cool enough to stay on the track for a whole day during a track session? And what's going to break down, when you bring those cars to the track, or to customers that want to bring their car to autocross events. So it's just going to adapt and change, as it has over the last 10 years. So, the future in 10 years, who knows what that'll be. My cars, they have to make a noise. So, I don't know about what I'll be driving in 10 years, but they better be loud.
Well, I mentioned the Taycan, and one of the coolest things about that is you can dial in the sound on the car.
Yeah.
So it can sound anything from a UFO to a 911 turbo.
Yeah.
And I have to say something. I picture this world coming up where you got grandfathers who grew up on 4-barrel carbs, and the kids are going to talk about capacitors.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting. Danny, what do you think of this? Danny, oh, there you are. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I think I think the idea of engineering is evolving, and because again I go back to my kids and I can see the way that they think about it, and I can see the in the ways that they think about it. But I also think that I love tinkering with vehicles, and my boys certainly do, and I think that this is a new segment for them to get excited about. So yeah, I look at our sales and in our service department, we've certainly had to get new equipment. We had to get new training in order to be able to work on some of these cars and keep them on the road. But it's we still sell so many vehicles, and there's such a thirst for, like what Chris said, cars that make a lot of noise, cars that go fast, and cars that people can still tinker with at home. So I don't see that going away anytime soon. I think it's just an evolution of a new segment.
So you're not going to see home tinkers develop cases of curly hair
Hmm.
like John there. Ian.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, when you look at younger consumers, whether it be millennials or Gen Z or even the older consumers, how do you think we can create more people with a passion for the automotive hobby or the automotive industry, whether that be employees or people who just have a passion for cars? Let's start with Danny, since we were just talking.
You broke up there just right at the end. Ask me that one more time. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, how do we create more car nuts, no matter what generation? You know, we were talking. Sarah was talking a little bit earlier about, you know, one of her daughters wanting to get a license, her friends not wanting to. You know, that whole. Do you see that as a permanent shift, or you think it as a temporary shift? I know when millennials came in, everyone was like, "Wow, they're not going to want to buy cars." And you know, what do you think?
Well, okay, so I'll give you an example. There in Kansas City, there's this really cool organization called Mind Drive, and I encourage you to Google it. But what Mind Drive does is that they take old car Manguias and turn them into electric cars, and then they drive them to California, Sarah, to out to you guys and back, and they bring in different disciplines, whether it be mechanical or electrical engineers, and they help kids anywhere from middle school all the way through high school work on these cars and all different pieces. And half the building is AutoCAD design, and the other half of the building is a shop where they get to work on it. And so we've done really cool stuff with them and sponsored classes and gotten in there and gotten dirty with them. And I think programs like that are just so cool because it takes kids out of behind a screen, and it actually gets them working on vehicles, and that's, you just can't replace that.
Chris, thanks for that.
Yeah, it's funny. I have two daughters also. One's 19 and one's 16, and the 19-year-old, she got her driver's license immediately, and the 16-year-old, she doesn't really, you know, she doesn't even have her permit yet. So, you know, it's to get them into and to get a younger generation, you know, still involved in cars. I still think they are. I still talk to a lot of young guys, and you know, they just turn to a different source. You know, it used to be online and going to forums and things like that. But a lot of you guys they're on YouTube and they're learning how to work on their cars on there. You know, we still get contacted a lot about, you know, the race car and the race team and guys or younger guys that want to get involved. How do I get on a race team, or what do I need to learn to become an intern on that? So we still field calls in that sense. And honestly, I think that in my group and in my demographic, I think that there's the ownership of a BMW has actually gotten younger and younger and younger. And now that there's a lot of turbo, the majorities of BMWs and Mercedes, they're turbocharged engines, it's appealed more to the younger guys for tuning and having aftermarket stuff because, you know, back when it was, you know, more Hondas or, you know, things like that, the Supras and the 300CX, those cars were turbos. So those were the ones that the guys modified more. And BMWs, you know, weren't that. Now there's a lot of younger guys that actually have started their own repair facilities that focus just on turbocharged BMW. So I still think that honestly, it's probably gotten stronger with a younger crowd modifying high performance cars.
Sarah?
So I think it makes me a little bit sad about the shift in education that had happened. So I don't know about all of you, but I would say most of us, there was typically an offering of a shop component in our high schools where people could go in and tinker and get their hands dirty and either work on on a car or tooling or something. And I think a lot of that educational component is not accessible anymore. So I do know some different companies or different programs that are working on trying to bring back that educational component to schools, because I think when you plant the seeds at a really young age, and we always have the reading, writing, arithmetic, but when you expand their brain into other things, and I know schools that I've expanded in other ways, there's creative outlets, but everybody needs to get their kind of hands dirty in a sense in some avenue that just triggers something with them. So because of that, we are going to be moving forward towards eventually a lack of technicians and mechanics to work on these cars. I mean, that's been a continuing conversation, as well as the shift to the EV market. It's going to change service and it's going to change parts, because cars are getting so technologically smart that the brains are telling them to stop and start and go and slow down. And I hate to say it, but this is these are things that I think about being in my sector. Not that I don't want I don't want people to crash, but in a sense that's part of what keeps a lot of us going is the service sector. And so we're going to have to shift and ebb and flow and adjust according, just like every other market. You have to kind of, I'll say, diversify and figure out where your niche is going to be. So so in terms of reaching more, then I'd say it's definitely education and programs. And I mean, thank God after this pandemic is starting to slow. We in California were considered in a sense open, and car shows have been continuing on, but now there's going to be a rush towards the end of this year, at least in the United States, of all these great car shows starting up, and just really regenerating that interest that people at home maybe haven't been able to experience, but just sharing that love in a community forum. Because I think that's an important space. It's your home forum is one thing, but sharing that love in a group and and having access and physical touch and feel and sight, is important.
Thanks, Bob.
I actually do feel that even though it's only been, say, 18 months since the last car shows were really out, when people come back, it's going to be almost a giant shift to what they're going to see in the show. Because, in 2019, the cars that were out were different than what's going to be now, because everybody suddenly jumped onto this electric bandwagon. It's a little bit crazy. And Ian and I actually had a discussion before the show, and we're talking about what's driving people to buy electric. We have a different opinion. He thinks it's the eco-friendly drive, and I just think it's because they're cool. What do you think there, Sarah? Same thing, or?
I mean, there is, in a sense. I mean, I've driven a Taycan several times. I don't know that I want to purchase it right away unless it was going to be an alternate vehicle. So, there is that what they call I want to call fuel anxiety, but that's the wrong word. Whatever the range anxiety. Thank you. So, for example, I mean, I lead drives every weekend, and so I get Porsche people together on a regular basis. And there's a woman that had just joined my group, because I have co-ed and I have women's Porsche groups. And we were going on a longer drive, and it's through an area that is not going to be set up for electric charging capabilities. And besides the fact that our plan didn't have a stop point in mind for someone to charge for 15 to 45 minutes, and so that was one of her questions. She says, she really needed to know what the route was and, the possibilities, because she has to think ahead. And so, and only because we were going to be, I'll just say, kind of gunning it on the road. She, normal driving circumstances, she probably would have been fine with freeway or highway, but we're going through curvy canyons, kind of, pushing it, where the more that you're using that electric consumption, the more that it starts to decline if you're not using braking to counteract. And, I won't get all into that, but yeah, I mean, there's when you look at what Elon Musk has done with the Tesla, I mean, it's kind of mind blowing. If you'd said, 10, 15, 20 years ago, what we'd be shifting into, it feels very futuristic. And it's pretty incredible. And now, and I really believe that Porsche has kind of come in and upped the bar, as well as all the other manufacturers, but that's really what I focus on. If you look at I've seen a lot of people look at a Taycan versus a Tesla specifically. And in terms of the build, there's really no comparison when you're talking a Porsche versus a Tesla, in terms of how even all the components line up. But then in terms of electric functionality, Tesla's been doing it for much longer. So they've definitely got kind of a corner and set the bar very high for everyone else. And he continues to make sure that he's driving that forward, to be kind of ahead of the game. So
I do have a suggestion for you for these drives. If somebody wants to bring an electric car, and because they're very eco-friendly, is you get somebody to drive with you in a 1-ton diesel pickup, carrying a giant generator in the back, and make up for all that gas they saved.
Now, if we could get that car or that truck to handle the canyons like our 911s, then we'll be golden.
Oh, hey, maybe the Tesla truck.
Yeah, maybe.
I have a Hummer, and it's that's the joke, is like, if I can keep up with my Porsche crew and my Hummer on the canyons, yeah, well, I'll tow a generator with me.
Yeah, exactly. So, Chris, what's the most exciting thing coming out in the car nut world today?
Oh man, there's a lot of stuff. What would be the most exciting? Let me think about that. I'm not really. I would guess, back to electric cars right now. We have here we have another car, Lucid Motors, is coming out. Hey, Steve. So my boss just walked in, Mr. Steve Dinan. Hey, Steve, what do you think the most exciting thing out in the car world coming out is now? Ask him. Yeah. We think that there's going to be, just like BMW and Mercedes and Audi have had a competition in gas powered cars as far as performance and speed. We think the same thing is going to be coming out with more competition with electric cars now that Porsche's in there with the Taycan, and Lucid Motors is coming out with theirs. And like Sarah said, the Hummer now is a 0 to 60 in 3 seconds. Their electric Hummer that's coming out. So we think that there's going to be not horsepower wars, but maybe voltage wars coming out with electric cars. And like I said, we see a need again for improving the overall handling of those things. So that's going to be exciting. Steve, he's personally excited about the new BMWs coming out and their all-wheel drive systems to compete with Audi, who's really had a hold on the all-wheel drivetrain here in this marketplace for a long time. So we think that technology will be great for track style cars. So.
You reminded me of watching an episode of the Grand Tour, and they had a Rimac there that did a hill climb, and it set a blazing record in this hill climb. And then I can't remember the name of one of the hosts, for some reason it escapes me. At the top of the hill climb, he couldn't stop the car, and he ended up rolling it.
Oh, yeah.
So that was pretty wild.
Yeah.
Danny, what do you think's the most exciting thing coming up in the car world today?
Oh gosh, I go back to kind of like this new segment. I really am enjoying the diversity of cars that are coming out right now. My used car dealership is literally in the middle of. We have a Porsche Jag dealership across the street. Behind me is an Audi dealership. In front of me is Infiniti. I mean, I literally have like every brand around me, and so I watch these trucks pull in, and in the back of my mind think, I'll see these cars in a year on my lot for sale for a much better value. But the amount of the innovation that's coming out, I think, is just super, super fun. And it challenges us to continue to up our game in our service department and up our game both, quite frankly, in the digital retailing space, because the type of vehicles are also attracting different types of consumers that want a different type of experience. And I think the two are connected. And so giving consumers a higher technology, lower friction experience in the store on these techier cars has been a cool challenge to execute on the ground.
So do you feel that those buyers that say are buying, a more technological car, are they're just they just want a different experience and that's why they're buying it, or what do you think?
There's two. So I have a section of consumers that are cautiously curious of the vehicles, and so they come in and they want a electric car, they want something with a lot more features, but they're really afraid either they don't know how to use it, that it's going to break down, that they'll never be able to fix it, that the value is going to go down. I had somebody said to me, it's like driving an iPad, and iPads are worth very little money in a couple of years, right? Because a new iPad comes out and then you see them on Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist for $100. And so is this going to be like an iPad? And some of those questions I can answer by looking at residual values, and some of them I can't yet answer 100%. And so making sure that we're working to solve the consumer's needs in that space has been interesting. The other side of it is I've got this other type of consumer that comes in and doesn't care. They just want it. They want the latest, greatest, the most features, and what has the most technology packed on four wheels. So serving both of those customers has been an adventure.
Interesting. And Chris, I had a question for you too. If you're looking at, say, electric cars, for example, or even four-wheel drive BMW, for example, are you guys doing any electric upgrades at all? Do you
That's in our plans. Yeah, it is in our plans to modify, electric vehicles as well. Yeah, as far as acceleration goes and performance. Yeah,
and are you into that market where people have a sort of classic car and they just want to make it electric? Do you do that at all, or no?
No, those conversions. So that's those always take longer than expected, and you make less money than you expect. So those type of projects we probably wouldn't undertake, but we are looking at how can we, the 0 to 60 on the car is great on an electric car. How do we make it better? That's Steve. That's what he does. That is. We take cars that, BMW's built the best BMW or BMW M3 or M4, and we still find ways to improve. So we do see a market for that going forward.
Cool.
I do have to say that one thing I think is very exciting is the possibility of hybrid, performance hybrids. And I'll never forget driving a Highlander Toyota hybrid, and just out Vancouver in the interior BC, we go through mountain passes. And there's one point there that there's about a 9-mile hill. And every car went up that hill, gas car, shifting up, shifting down, shifting up. And they, the speed limit's about 80 miles an hour. And cars were either doing 60 or they were doing 120. You couldn't hold that 80 until I drove this Highlander, and it held perfect. Right up the hill. There was never an issue, no shifting. So I'm excited about that. Sorry, Ian, I cut you off there.
Of course. And sir, did you have any thoughts on electric? I mean, obviously it was interesting. Danny had some views on sort of the depreciation of these cars. And I know Musk and the boys have set these leases with a very high residual. What do you feel as this becomes more competitive with, say, 10 or 15 different brands in the game? Do you think that's going to impact what these electrics are worth, whether it be Porsche or other?
Yeah, it's, I mean, I don't know if I have a prediction necessarily of what they're going to be worth. I mean, it is, right now, I mean, we're in such an interesting space after this pandemic era of just the demand for cars in itself, that I think that it's shifting what residuals are at this moment, because, the values that everyone is getting, and the need to keep acquiring them right now, and the almost in excess of being able to find them on the market to resell them is such a challenge that most dealers are facing. So we're in such a heightened state of buying and selling right now that I'm wondering when that's going to kind of start to taper off, and then I feel like we're going to find kind of a more even space to really kind of even start to have a realistic picture. But like you said, that the iPad comparison was quite interesting, of thinking of a car in that capacity and thinking of that, almost deterioration of it, because it's like a newer, faster, better computer basically is what is getting you from point A to point B, as opposed to a vehicle where I mean, it's in my life, I've never really purchased vehicles for longevity. Whereas that's a lot of people do that. Some people buy one car and they plan to have it for 5, 10, 15, 25 years. My cars are free flow. And I'm going to guess, most people in the automotive space that are dealership or otherwise, that's, if that's more of commonality. I joke, I change Porsches like I change my underwear. They come in, they come out, they sell. So I don't get too concerned about my own residual values, whereas other people that are purchasing cars, that might be a very, very hefty concern for them. I did like the one comment that he talked about with voltage wars. That's probably a term that is common that I just haven't heard before. I just thought that was a kind of a fun coin.
Actually, I have to make a comment to what you said there about changing cars, and I bet your kids have come across this, because mine certainly did. I'll never forget my youngest daughter. A kid came up to her one day and said, "Wow, you guys must really be rich. Your dad's got so many cars." And I wasn't driving Porsches.
Yeah, my late husband was an exotic collector. We had, I don't know, I want to say every month or two there'd be a new exotic in here, and then we wouldn't be leaving, and it was, yeah. I'm like, just leave me a parking space.
That's like the shows on TV. We were supposed to have a couple other guests from one of the car TV shows that couldn't make it. But there's one in particular, I can't remember what it is, but the principal or the star or whatever always wants to keep the car. They fix it up and he goes, "Oh, I got to keep this one. Just put it over there," right? Yeah. And there is that tendency to do that. Do we have any questions from our guests, our audience, or whatever?
No questions.
Very quiet today. You guys are very engaging. Usually we see people typing or looking away, but the Car Nutz
questions.
Going, yeah, I'm still mesmerized by all the cars behind you. Well, the backdrops there.
I do want to add something, if you let me. So, Sarah, you mentioned this about like this thirst for cars, right, at car dealerships, and an acquisition issue with used vehicles. Well, I being on this side of it, I'll tell you that we're getting so much more creative about not just where we're buying cars, but what cars we're buying because of that, right? Where in lane, it used to be that we just had a comfort zone of these are the cars we bid on and this is how much we pay for them and so forth. But today, like my store specifically has what we call a vehicle buying center, and we buy a lot of cars off the street, and this team of 5 people focus on acquisition, period. And so the type of vehicles that we're acquiring, because we're going out to the public and because we're finding these other honey holes to buy inventory, has really expanded the brand share, the variety of vehicles that we're buying and what we're taking risks on. And we get a lot cooler inventory on our lot than before at also better prices, because we're cutting out the middle person and not competing with other experts, so not paying what I call stupid tax.
Stupid tax.
That's always the problem of the auction. I mean, Sarah, I'm sure you get a lot of cars off of auction, but I don't know how many times I bought a car going, "Well, I'm not going to let them do that. Yeah, I'll take it. Oh, I want it. Oh, it's only another $100, but it was actually $200, and then some idiot goes $500, and it gets a little bit crazy. We're getting short on time. Guests, any other comments you'd like to make? Any points you'd like to make? Chris, you're sitting there moving. I see you. You want to say something?
No, it's just we're excited to be on here. It's you guys always have good guests, and then I learn something here every day, so it always gets me started off, in a new direction, and things to think about for the week. But no, just a great show. Thank you.
Thank you. We're always very happy to connect people, and one of the greatest things that we found with our show is a lot of people have connected that never would have before. And maybe Danny, you and Sarah, Chris, you and Danny, and I'm sure you got a race coming up in the Kansas City area, so he'll be sitting there cheering you on. So too bad you can't come up to Canada yet. Sarah, you're facing me with a big smile. What final comments?
Well, you were asking too what what kind of excites me. And one thing I've loved to watch, especially in the Porsche world, is what I call the outlaws. So, like Singer is my next door neighbor, if you guys know the customizer of Porsches. So I mean, they obviously have made a big name for themselves, but even individuals that have really taken on customization and made, there's definitely, again, that wide spectrum of people that want an OEM stock, made to spec car, and maybe bringing it back to that capacity, but then also this wide range of people that are kind of customizing, whether it's the exterior or the interior of their car, and just finding that love and that passion of really making it an identifiable, that is their car, and they don't care what other people's opinions on it are. So it's been really fun to kind of watch that, and it'll be interesting to see, in the future with the EV market. I mean, I'm so in line with the tinkers, like you said. We talked about the car nuts and the people that want to take projects and get their hands dirty. And will that happen in the EV market? Will there be any need for it? I mean, these cars are going to need so little service. That's what they're designed for. Will they want to customize their car? Will they want to, do it in the same way? I mean, I even just look at my own, just in the Porsche market. So you've got like the 911 people that are definitely more tinkers, and then you've got the SUV people, which tend to be more family oriented, and they're not going to necessarily do any work themselves. They're going to send it out to a service facility if they want to get any work done. And there are definitely customizations even of the SUV market. But it's going to be interesting to see, or the SUV market, yeah. So, but it's going to be interesting to see in the EV market if people are going to want to make them as identifiable and unique, or if they're going to be more like the Tesla, where they're all kind of almost monochromatic in a sense.
Well, it's interesting you bring that up, because if you look at the numbers of people who are buying the Porsche Taycan, I think the statistic was 56% are new to the Porsche brand. So I think that's a massive opportunity for Porsche, but more importantly for other brands, because as you see other companies get into it, there's going to be a fight for that customer who might be a different customer than they've ever had experience with before. And I think, to Chris's point, there's still going to be the people who want to go fast. They're just going to want to go fast by upgrading what they have, right? And there's going to be those people who maybe think of it as an iPhone or whatever, but I don't think those are going to be the dominant group. I think that's just going to be a segment of the market. It's going to be interesting, though, to see how that shakes out from demographic point of view and an age point of view. Is that strictly a youth-based market or not? I don't know.
For sure. Danny, any final comments?
My thing would be continue to take risks. We do that every single day here, and in the type of inventory that you buy, in the way that you engage your clients, and the way that you, I like to be bleeding edge. Something I didn't talk about earlier is I'm also in the technology space and one of the owners of VinQ. So we see the market trend analysis and kind of understand market demand and what's coming in and out of the market. And there's certainly a thirst for what I call not your everyday cars. So there's more than ever people are buying off the beaten path cars, whether it be sports cars or sport light cars in an SUV segment. So that's encouraging to me and exciting to me, especially being in the Midwest, where there's a tendency to be a little bit more mainstream.
Actually, going back to Sarah's comment about customization, the only customization I see on Teslas right now are wraps. Changing color ones and everything else, and we have a large demographic here that has this affinity with pink wraps. We see G-Wagons down to BMW i3s with pink wraps on them. So, Ian, I'll leave it to you.
Chris, any final thoughts?
No, I'm good.
All right. Well, thanks very much, everybody, for coming on the Car Nutz show and Auto Hub show. We really appreciate it.
Ian, I was going to say something.
Yeah, go ahead.
So rude. Sarah?
Oh no, I was sorry. Go ahead.
All right, Ian, go ahead.
Thanks very much for coming on the show. Really appreciate it. Lots of great content as always. The show will be up shortly, and of course, if there's anything we can do, just ask. And have yourself a great week.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you so much for having all of us.
No worries. Thank you.
Bye.
I'm watching your races, Chris.
Yes, we will tune in.
See you there.